The church bells of Willow Creek tolled slowly, their mournful chime echoing through the crisp autumn air. Black umbrellas dotted the cemetery hill, but no storm outside matched the one brewing among the Sullivan siblings. Margaret Maggie Sullivan, beloved by some, ridiculed by others, was finally gone. Claire stood stiffly by the casket, her hands clenched around a folded handkerchief. She hadn't made it in time to say goodbye, and the weight of that regret pressed against her chest. Across from her, Ethan, tall and polished in his tailored suit, glared as though her very presence offended him. "You couldn't even be here in her final hours?" Ethan's voice cut low, but sharp enough for nearby relatives to overhear. "You were always her favorite, Claire, but when it mattered most, you abandoned her." Claire's lips trembled, though her eyes hardened. "Don't you dare stand there and lecture me, Ethan. You live 5 minutes away and barely visited unless you needed something." Jack, leaning unsteadily against a tree at the edge of the gathering, let out a humorless laugh. His tie was crooked, his shirt untucked, and the faint smell of whiskey clung to him. "Look at the two of you," he muttered. "Mom's in the ground, not 10 minutes, and already it's a battlefield." "Because she raised us on battle," Ethan snapped. "Rules, rules, rules, never good enough, never free." Claire shook her head. "She wasn't strict for herself, she was strict for us." The funeral ended in bitter silence. Guests drifted away with whispers of, "Such a fractured family." Ethan drove off before the hearse even left. Jack disappeared into the night with a bottle in hand, and Claire, left alone in the family house that suddenly felt cavernous and cold, wandered into Maggie's old bedroom. The scent of lavender lingered in the air, faint but haunting. Claire sat on the edge of the bed, running her fingers across the polished wood of the nightstand. She opened the drawer and found it, the worn, leather-bound journal, its corners frayed, its cover faintly scratched, as if it had been clutched tightly over the years. Her heart thudded as she opened it. The first pages were lists, curfews, chores, reminders to lock the doors. Then came reflections about her children. Ethan's sharp temper, Jack's reckless streak, Claire's stubbornness. But near the end, Maggie's handwriting grew urgent, almost frantic. "They laugh at me for being strict. They call me paranoid. But I see the patterns. The danger is circling us, waiting for one mistake." Claire's fingers trembled as she turned to the final page. The ink was darker, pressed deep into the paper. "One of you has already let the danger in." Her breath caught. The room felt suddenly colder. A shadow flickered past the window. Claire froze. The sound of footsteps crunched outside, deliberate and slow, stopping just beneath her window. The morning after the funeral, sunlight streamed through half-drawn curtains, but the Sullivan house remained heavy with shadows. Claire sat at the kitchen table, Maggie's leather journal in her hands. The final entry burned in her mind. "One of you has already let the danger in." Ethan strode into the room, briefcase in hand, already dressed for court though he hadn't officially returned to work. His movements were precise, controlled, but his jaw tightened when he saw the journal. "You're still reading that thing?" His tone dripped with disdain. "Claire, Mom wasn't some prophet. She was a control freak. Those pages? They're nothing but a monument to her paranoia." Claire snapped the journal shut, glaring at him. "Don't you dare reduce her to that. She wrote everything down for a reason." "She wrote everything down because she couldn't trust anyone," Ethan countered, slamming his briefcase onto the counter. "And look what it did, drove this family apart." Her voice dropped to a tremor. "Then explain this." She opened to the entry describing a man with Ethan's eyes lurking at the edge of the yard. For the first time, Ethan's mask cracked. His lips parted, his expression darkened, but instead of answering, he grabbed his briefcase. "I don't have time for this circus." His voice was low, almost trembling with anger. "Stop digging into ghosts, Claire. You won't like what you find." He stormed out, the slam of the front door rattling the picture frames on the wall. Claire sat stunned, her heart pounding. Ethan's reaction hadn't been denial. It had been fear. Jack stumbled in moments later, sunglasses hiding bloodshot eyes. He yanked open the fridge, pulling out a beer despite the early hour. "You two were screaming like banshees," he muttered. "Let me guess. St. Ethan didn't like you poking holes in his perfect life?" Claire stared at him. "Jack, What is Ethan hiding? Jack paused mid-swig, lowering the bottle slowly. His jaw flexed as if debating whether to speak. Finally, he leaned against the counter, voice low. You think I haven't noticed? He's been keeping secrets for years. Late-night calls, strange meetings, and Mom, she knew. That's why she rode him harder than us. She wasn't punishing him. She was terrified of what he'd bring into this family. Claire's throat tightened. And you never said anything? Jack's eyes flickered with guilt. Because if Ethan's secret blows up, it'll take all of us down with him. Claire's fingers itched to turn another page of the journal, desperate for answers. She flipped it open, and a small object slid onto the table. A pressed flower, delicate and dry, tucked between the pages. Written in faded ink, beside it was a phone number, in their father's handwriting. Her pulse raced. Their father had been dead for years. Why would his handwriting appear here, linked to Maggie's final warnings? Jack leaned closer, frowning. That's Dad's writing. Claire, what the hell did Mom know? The kitchen phone rang like a warning bell, slicing through the Sullivan house's uneasy quiet. Claire hesitated before picking it up, her fingers trembling as they wrapped around the receiver. Hello? Her voice quivered. There was silence, then a deep, familiar timbre. Claire. Her breath caught. Who is this? A pause, weighted and deliberate. Daniel Harper. Claire's knees nearly buckled. Daniel Harper. Her father's old business partner. The man who had supposedly died in a boating accident over a decade ago. That's impossible, she whispered. You're dead. A low chuckle rolled through the line. Not dead. Just waiting. Your mother kept my number for a reason. Ask yourself why. The line went dead. Claire stood frozen, the dial tone buzzing in her ear. Jack had been watching, his beer forgotten on the counter. What did he say? Her lips parted. He said, he's Daniel Harper. Jack's eyes widened. That's insane. He's supposed to be buried 6 feet under. If he's alive, Ethan knows. Claire's stomach twisted. She thought of Ethan's reaction earlier, the way he had stormed out at the mention of a man with his eyes. That evening, across town, Ethan sat in a dimly lit motel room, his tie loosened, his hands clasped tightly as though in prayer. Across from him sat Daniel Harper, alive, very much real, and exuding an aura of dangerous calm. You shouldn't be here, Ethan hissed. Daniel smirked. And yet, here I am. Did you really think your mother could keep me buried with her rules and lies? He leaned forward, eyes glinting. She tried to protect them. But she didn't know the truth about you. Ethan's throat tightened. If you say one word to Claire or Jack, Daniel interrupted with a laugh. What, you'll ruin me? No, Ethan, you need me. Without me, your secret dies with her journal. And, trust me, you don't want that. Back at the Sullivan house, Claire couldn't stop replaying the call. Her mother's words haunted her. One of you has already let the danger in. Was it Ethan? Did he know Daniel Harper was alive all along? Jack paced like a caged animal. Claire, think. Why would Mom hide his number in the journal unless she knew something? Unless Daniel never really left our lives? Claire closed her eyes, gripping the journal so tightly her knuckles went white. Whatever this is, it's not over. And Ethan's in the middle of it. Jack Sullivan had always been the reckless one, the youngest child, the one Maggie scolded most fiercely, the one who had grown up with rebellion in his blood. And on the night after Daniel Harper's voice rattled Claire's world, Jack's own need for escape dragged him into dangerous territory. He leaned against the polished bar at the Willow Creek Country Club, nursing his third whiskey when Lila Monroe entered. Heads turned. She was elegance wrapped in scandal. Her late husband had once been Maggie's closest confidant, and rumors swirled for years about his affair with her. Jack smirked when she caught his eye. Lila, he drawled, shouldn't a woman like you be sipping champagne in New York, not wasting away in this town? She tilted her head, her diamond earrings catching the low light. And yet here we both are, Jack Sullivan. Maybe Willow Creek still has unfinished business for people like us. The electricity was immediate. Dangerous. One drink turned into two. Laughter gave way to whispers. And by midnight, the whispers gave way to lips pressed together in a shadowed corner booth. Two broken people, filling emptiness with fire. Across town, Claire walked the familiar streets she hadn't dared revisit in years. Her feet led her to the Chase residence. She paused at the gate, her chest tightening as she spotted Adam Chase trimming hedges in the yard. The boy who had once held her hand beneath high school bleachers was now a man, broader, older, but his smile still carried the warmth that once melted her defenses. "Claire?" His voice cracked slightly in disbelief. She exhaled, managing a small smile. "It's been a long time, Adam." He set down his shears, stepping closer. "I didn't think you'd ever come back." Their eyes lingered longer than they should have, until the sound of a door creaking open shattered the moment. Melissa Chase, Claire's childhood best friend, appeared on the porch, wiping her hands on an apron. Her gaze flickered between them, suspicion flashing instantly. "Claire!" What a surprise! Claire's heart plummeted. She hadn't known. Adam was married, to her best friend. Back in the Sullivan house, Claire sought distraction from her roiling emotions. She opened the journal again, tracing her mother's frantic handwriting. Something rustled near the back, wedged between pages. She pulled it free, a sealed envelope, yellowed with age. Her breath caught when she saw the words written across it in Maggie's careful hand. "To the child who isn't mine." Her pulse thundered. One of them, Ethan, Jack, or herself, wasn't Maggie's by blood. The Sullivan house had always been a place of rules and order, but now it felt like a war zone. The three siblings sat around the dining table, the envelope Maggie left lying between them like a ticking bomb. Ethan's voice was clipped, his lawyer's composure beginning to crack. "We don't open it. End of discussion." Claire's eyes blazed. "You can't just pretend this doesn't exist. Mom left it for a reason." Jack slouched in his chair, spinning an empty beer bottle between his palms. "For a reason, sure, but maybe she wanted to tear us apart from beyond the grave. You ever think of that? She loved her rules, her punishments. This could be one last test." Ethan slammed his hand on the table. "Don't you see what this would do? If people find out one of us isn't Dad's child, it destroys everything. Our name, my career, this family's reputation." Claire's voice cracked, torn between fury and pain. "Reputation? That's all you care about? What about the truth?" Jack smirked bitterly. "Truth doesn't keep food on the table or people in line." Ethan's right about one thing. We open that letter, and there's no going back. But Claire had already broken the seal. Her fingers shook as she pulled the folded paper free, Maggie's neat handwriting dancing across the page. She read aloud. "One of you is not your father's by blood, but you are all mine. My love never changed, even when I learned the truth. I could not tell you while I lived. Forgive me." The letter ended abruptly. No name, no answer. Claire dropped it on the table. "She didn't say who," Jack laughed hollow and sharp. Typical mom, drops the bomb, walks away. Ethan rose to his feet, running a hand through his hair. His voice was low but venomous. "This stays between us. No one outside this room can know. If it leaks, if anyone finds out, we're finished." Claire's hands clenched. "I'll find out. I don't care if it takes a DNA test." Ethan leaned across the table, eyes burning. "And when the test says it's you, Claire, when it proves you don't belong to us at all, what then?" She recoiled, stunned by the cruelty in his tone. Jack jumped up, shoving Ethan back. "That's enough. Don't put this on her. You've got your own skeletons rattling in the closet." Ethan straightened his tie, trying to regain control. "Do what you want. But if this blows up, don't come crawling to me." He stormed out, leaving Claire trembling. Jack placed a hand on her shoulder, softer than his words. "Don't trust him, Claire. Ethan's hiding something big. Something Mom knew." The next day, Claire mailed DNA kits for all three of them. She felt a fragile surge of hope that soon the truth would finally set them free. But when she returned home a week later, the mailbox hung open, the envelope that should have contained the results, gone. Claire couldn't sleep. The shadows of Willow Creek seemed heavier at night, pressing against the windows as if the house itself were listening. She sat in Maggie's old armchair, the leather worn and familiar beneath her hands, flipping through the journal. Every page screamed a warning she hadn't fully understood before. A soft knock at the door startled her. "Claire, it's me," said a voice low and measured. She froze. Daniel Harper stepped into the dimly lit room, his presence both commanding and unsettling. The air seemed to thicken around him. "What are you doing here?" Claire demanded, trying to mask the quiver in her voice. "I need to show you the truth about your father," Daniel said, producing a photograph from inside his coat. He handed it to her, Maggie standing close to a man whose face made Claire's stomach turn, unknown, yet intimate, and dated 9 months before Ethan's birth. Claire's fingers shook. "Who is he?" Daniel's eyes darkened. "Your father wasn't as innocent as you were led to believe. Smuggling, bribes, dangerous alliances that cost lives. Maggie's rules, her curfews, her paranoia, it wasn't overprotective motherhood, it was survival." Jack stumbled into the room behind her, beer in hand, his expression skeptical but alert. "And you expect us to just believe you?" Daniel's gaze snapped to Jack. "I don't expect anything, I'm offering the truth. But some of you, especially Ethan, have things you're keeping hidden, secrets your mother tried to protect them from, but she couldn't." Ethan arrived moments later, his suit slightly rumpled, eyes narrowed. "What are you telling her?" His tone was low, clipped, and dangerous. Daniel leaned back, folding his hands in a mock show of civility. "I'm telling her what you've always known, that the family she tried to keep together has cracks that go deeper than bloodlines." Ethan's face darkened. "You're manipulating her, trying to turn us against each other?" Daniel smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Manipulation implies I'm lying. I'm not. Maggie kept a journal because she saw the danger. And the danger isn't just outside this house. It's inside. Sometimes, closer than you think." Jack muttered under his breath. "Great. Just what we needed. Another secret, another ghost from Dad's past." Claire's hands clenched around the journal. "Why now? Why are you telling me all this?" Daniel's voice was almost a whisper. "Because your mother didn't get the chance. She tried to warn them, but the one thing she couldn't foresee is that one of you has already made a choice. A choice that could destroy everything she fought to protect." The Sullivan house, once a sanctuary of rules and order, now felt like a cage. Night fell over Willow Creek, thick and oppressive, shadows stretching across the lawn like dark fingers. Claire lay in her childhood bed, the journal clutched to her chest, her mind replaying Daniel Harper's ominous revelations. A faint scratching at the window made her freeze. She strained her ears. Footsteps, soft, deliberate, crunched against the gravel. Her pulse raced. "Jack?" she whispered, but only silence answered. Downstairs, Ethan prowled the hallways, restless. The past week's revelations had turned his disciplined world upside down. He scowled as he noticed the front door ajar. "Who's been in here?" he muttered, tension radiating from every word. Jack appeared behind him, pale and jittery, holding a flashlight like a weapon. "I've been saying it for days, Ethan. Someone's been watching us. Mom wasn't paranoid. She was preparing us." Ethan's brow furrowed. "You're imagining things." Jack's glare pierced him. "Do I look like I'm imagining it?" He held up a crumpled note, scrawled in jagged letters. "We're closer than you think." Claire, drawn by their shouting, ran down the stairs. She grabbed the note from Jack's hand. Her eyes widened as she read it aloud. "It's from the stalker?" Jack nodded grimly. "Yeah. And it's just the start." That night, tires were slashed on the family cars, and another note appeared, pinned to the mailbox with a silver dagger-like pin. "Stop digging or suffer." Claire's hands shook as she traced the threatening words. Ethan paced the living room, muttering under his breath. "If Daniel's behind this, we're done. This is bigger than anything Mom warned about. Bigger than the journal." Jack's jaw tightened. Or maybe it's someone closer. Someone who knows exactly what we're doing. Claire's mind raced. The journal, Daniel, the hidden envelope, everything pointed to a web of secrets threatening to strangle them. And now, the stalker had stepped from the shadows into their lives. Later, as Claire returned to her bedroom, she noticed the journal lying open on her bed. The page she hadn't read in weeks stared up at her. The child who isn't mine. A shiver ran down her spine. Whoever was in their house knew exactly what she had discovered. From the corner of her eye, a shadow flickered across the hallway. She spun, heart hammering, and caught a glimpse of a masked figure disappearing toward the stairs. The Sullivan house felt colder than usual, even with the autumn sun streaming through the windows. Claire paced the living room, DNA results clutched tightly in her hand. Her heart raced as she stared at the envelope, the final confirmation of what Maggie's journal and letters had hinted at for so long. Ethan entered without knocking, his eyes sharp, his tailored suit now slightly rumpled from the tension he could no longer suppress. "Well?" he demanded, voice low but commanding. Claire swallowed hard. "It's true." Ethan's hands trembled, though he tried to mask it behind clenched fists. "You mean, you've done the test?" "I had to know," she said. "We all did. And it shows," her voice faltered. "You're not Dad's son, Ethan. You're Daniel Harper's." For a moment, the world seemed to tilt. Ethan's face went pale, eyes wide, then darkened with a storm of fury, fear, and betrayal. "I knew," he whispered almost to himself. "I always knew, and I hated her for it. Mom, she made me believe, she punished me for her mistakes." Jack stumbled back from the hallway, his face ashen. "Wait, you're telling me, Ethan, you're not a Sullivan?" His voice trembled, equal parts shock and disbelief. Ethan's laugh was bitter, a jagged edge slicing through the air. "Not by blood, but by her rules, by her obsession with survival. I lived and breathed under her shield. And now? I see how fragile it all really was." Claire sank into the armchair, feeling the walls of her childhood close in. The journal, the letters, the hidden truths, they all painted a picture she hadn't wanted to believe. Her mother's final warning, "One of you has already let the danger in," suddenly made sense. Jack's voice was low, almost fearful. That means everything Mom warned us about, it wasn't paranoia. It was about Ethan, or Daniel, or both. Ethan's gaze sharpened, glinting with anger and pain. "And now you know too. You know the choices I've had to make. And you'll understand why some truths must remain buried." Claire looked between her brothers, a mix of love and betrayal warring within her. "Ethan, what have you done? What else are you hiding?" The room fell into a heavy, suffocating silence. None of them spoke as the weight of the revelation pressed down, threatening to crush the fragile trust they had left. That night, a storm swept over Willow Creek, lightning slicing through the darkened sky. When the siblings woke, Ethan was gone. The bed was empty, the room cold, and a single cryptic note lay on the pillow. "Daniel is dead tonight. Be ready for what comes next." The morning after Ethan's disappearance, Willow Creek woke to a storm of rumors. Coffee shop chatter, social media posts, and whispered conversations painted the Sullivan family as the epicenter of scandal. Jack's affair with Lila Monroe had leaked, thanks to a blurry photo snapped by an opportunistic neighbor. The town's judgmental eyes gleamed like hawks, circling for blood. Claire walked through the streets, clutching Maggie's journal to her chest, her heart pounding. Adam's presence in her thoughts made it worse. She hadn't been able to stop thinking about him, or the revelation that he was married to her best friend. The ache of forbidden love twisted in her chest. Jack slouched in the Sullivan living room, his usual bravado nowhere to be found. The scandal had left him exposed and vulnerable, and he could feel every rumor cutting deep. His phone buzzed constantly with messages from Lila, town gossips, and anonymous threats, all reminding him that the affair had gone public. Claire looked at him, concern warring with frustration. "Jack, this isn't just about gossip, there's more going on. Ethan's gone, Daniel's dead, and we don't know who to trust." Jack's fingers drummed the table. "You're telling me everything's unraveling and somehow I'm the headline. The question is, who's framing whom?" Claire pulled the journal from her bag and flipped through the pages. Her eyes caught a note she hadn't noticed before, scribbled in Maggie's frantic handwriting. "Trust no one, not even your blood." Her stomach dropped. Maggie's warning wasn't just about strangers, it was about the family. Just then, a knock at the door made them both jump. Police officers entered, stern and methodical. "We need to ask you a few questions about Daniel Harper," the lead officer said, eyes sharp. Jack exchanged a glance with Claire, then shook his head. "We don't know anything. Ethan disappeared last night." The officer's gaze lingered on Jack, suspicion flickering across his face. Claire felt a cold dread seep in. Ethan's disappearance, Daniel's murder, Jack's affair. It was all a perfect storm to point blame. As the officers left, Claire glanced at Jack. His hands trembled, and he avoided her gaze. Something was wrong. He was hiding more than just the affair now. That evening, Claire returned to her bedroom, flipping through the journal again. She noticed movement in the corner of the room. Her heart jumped as she realized Jack was there, holding a metallic glint in his hand. An object she instantly recognized. Her voice caught in terror. "Jack, what are you doing?" Jack's eyes met hers, panicked yet defiant. I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought Ethan." Thunder rattled against the windows of the Sullivan house as rain pelted the roof in relentless sheets. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside, a tempest of betrayal, fear, and heartbreak. Claire stood in the center of the living room, the leather journal clutched to her chest, her knuckles white. Jack's hands shook as he held the murder weapon, his expression a mix of fear and defiance. "I swear I didn't kill him," he said, voice cracking. Ethan set me up. He made me look guilty." Claire's breath hitched. "Jack, why would he?" A shadow darkened the doorway. Ethan stepped in, his coat soaked from the storm, eyes blazing with anger and desperation. In his hand, he held a pistol, trembling slightly. "It had to be done," he said. "Daniel was going to expose everything, our family, our secrets. I stopped him before it was too late." Jack's face twisted in disbelief. You killed him?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "I did what Mom would have done if she could. I protected this family, even from itself." Claire raised the journal above her head, shaking with emotion. "No! You don't get to play judge, jury, and executioner. Mom warned us, Ethan. Her last words weren't just rules. They were shields, and I'm going to read them to you now." She opened the journal to the final entry, her voice steady despite the storm raging around them. "Ethan was my greatest fear. Strictness was my only shield. I loved all of you fiercely, but some truths are heavier than the heart can bear. Protect each other, because one day, the danger may come from within." Ethan's hands fell slightly, his face twisting with pain. She feared me?" "Yes," Claire whispered. "And now you understand. She wasn't punishing you. She was keeping us alive." Jack dropped the weapon, his shoulders slumping in relief. "So, we've been fighting the wrong war." Police sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as they approached the house. Ethan's expression hardened, a final bitter edge in his gaze. He turned toward Claire, voice barely audible. "You'll never know all of her secrets. Some were meant for me alone." Before anyone could react, he slipped into the shadows of the storm, disappearing into the night just as the police lights flickered across the lawn. Claire sank to the floor, trembling. Jack knelt beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulder. The storm outside began to fade, leaving a heavy, uneasy silence in its wake. Shakily, Claire opened the back cover of the journal. She gasped. Faint, water-damaged writing appeared on the final blank page, as if Maggie's hand had left one last hidden warning. The danger isn't over.